Today on BRStv, we're going to show you a laundry list of ways a Neptune controller can save you some hard-earned crispy dollars. Hi, I'm Ryan, host of BRStv, where each week we explore a new topic related to reef tanks. This week we're going to explore the popular Neptune Apex controller with a heavy focus on how this thing is going to actually save you money. There are three main ways. First, it's going to replace a bunch of generally required equipment like power bars and timers. Second, it's going to replace or add redundancy to your system that's going to save your tank and home in the long run. Third, it's going to add some nice features that are optional but make reefing easier. There are a couple of basic things almost every tank out there needs: power bars, timers, or control for your lights and temperature control. You can use cheap power bars like this one, but I think that's a mistake. We have way too much time, money, and passion wrapped up in our tanks to trust our entire life support system to a $4 piece of equipment. I don't think you need to go crazy either. There's some pretty good ones out there for around 20 bucks. A decent digital timer is around the same price. Temperature control is also critical. At one point I thought this was somewhat optional, but at this point I think it's pretty much required for anyone who plans on having a multi-year successful tank. Temperature-related issues are easily the single biggest cause of tank crashes out there, starting with your heater. Really doesn't matter which brand you choose, they will all fail eventually. Some of the more popular types are like completely on a 10-cent single point of contact. Some will fail off, and worse, some will fail on. Either way, it's bad news. Only real solution is an external temperature controller to add redundancy as well as alert you when a heater fails. Since heaters are often hidden down in our sumps, it's really easy to not know when something goes wrong, so the alarm is pretty critical. Beyond that, hot summers, cold winters, furnace failures, air conditioners getting turned off, hot lights, chiller failures, and a whole slew of other things are super common issues and can all also result in tank crashes. More or less, the only real solution again is temperature controllers to prevent issues as well as notify you that the problem exists. For example, if the tank is overheating, you can use a controller to cut power to the heater. If it's still rising because it's super hot out and someone forgot to turn the air conditioning on, or worse, it breaks, a temp controller can turn on a fan, still rising, turn on a chiller, or start turning off sources of heat like lights, unnecessary pumps, or equipment like UV sterilizers. This is about where the Neptune Apex Junior steps in. It honestly doesn't make any sense to buy a couple of power bars, bulky timers, and a whole slew of temperature controllers when you can pick up an Apex Junior for less, and it's a platform that you can build off of for additional controls and redundancy. The next set of functions that can save you money are primarily based around adding some additional redundancies and protections that can save your tank or home from some pretty tragic events. Most of us have hundreds to thousands tied up in our tanks, and more valuable, an emotional connection to the fish, corals, and how the tank has evolved over the years. A tank crash and starting over is out of the question, so we absolutely should protect it. Beyond that, we all have large glass boxes of corrosive water in our homes, some of them containing hundreds of gallons of water. Leaks, top-off failures, and other issues can cause serious damage to your home. Replacing carpet, hardwood floors, ceilings, walls, furniture, and electrical fires can all be ridiculously expensive. While nothing is foolproof, there are a bunch of features on a controller like this that can protect your home. The first of which is pH monitoring and control. I've seen a lot of successful tanks out there that range anywhere from 7.8 to 8.3. Once you get out of that range, it's often a sign that something's wrong with the tank or equipment. Could be something's wrong with your calcium reactor, auto top-off system failed and is overdosing kalkwasser, a cheap timer running your 2-part doser failed, or something large died in the tank. Having a pH monitor which displays the pH is nice, but a good one costs $100 and isn't helpful unless you're actually looking at the tank when something bad happens, which is pretty darn rare. What we really need is a controller with an alarm, so A, it turns off the equipment like the calcium reactor that may be causing the issue, and B, notifies you of the problem. A good standalone controller with an alarm you can rely on is anywhere from $120 to $200. However, a controller like the Apex has this feature built in. Better yet, you can run multiple pH probes on the same controller so you can monitor and control your calcium reactor and the tank itself. Better yet, you can hook it up to the internet so it can email or text you if there's ever a problem, which in the end makes it much more valuable than a standalone controller. These same features can save your home from damage as well. Most of us will eventually put an auto top-off on our systems at some point, and if you're dosing with calc with your top-off and it failed on you, you could use a pH controller to shut down the auto top-off and notify you before it ruins your carpet, hardwood floors, or ceiling. If you're using fresh water in your top off, you can utilize their salinity probe to shut down the auto top off if the salinity were ever drop below an acceptable level. And since we're dealing with water, basically anything could develop a leak at some point, or various issues could cause a sump to overflow. So they have these nice leak detectors which you can put on a flat surface or slide under your carpet. This could easily save many people thousands of dollars in damage. Beyond all that, you have the ability to do level control with float switches, which can save you $100 to $200 on a good top off. And while I don't like relying solely on float switches for this because they have moving parts that fail, coupled with a salinity probe, it's a very safe solution. Beyond that, the Apex is capable of controlling your LED lights like the popular Aqua illumination models, sunset and rise effects on your Kessel LEDs, controlling ORP if you ever implement ozone, control your Ecotech Vortex pumps, add lunar lights to the tank, and even operate an automatic feeder. At this point, it should be pretty easy to see how a controller like this could not only save you money in equipment purchases, but even more valuable, it can help you avoid all the most common issues that reefers encounter. Anyone who's been in the hobby for more than a couple years will tell you that a heater failure isn't an if, it's just a matter of when. It's hard to believe, but the entire tank is resting solely on that 10-cent piece of metal functioning correctly. And last but not least, the Apex is capable of detecting yet another fairly common occurrence, power outages. Once it's detected, it can turn on essential equipment like a pump for gas exchange, as well as use web-based services to notify you of the issue. So check out the comments below and share with other viewers some interesting things you've done with your controller, as well as ask the community any questions you might have. If this is your first time with us, don't forget to subscribe because we do this every week. Thank you for watching BRStv.